Hello, gorgeous Cancer moon children family. I'm so happy to be sitting here with you today and feeling through the energy of January 2020. Wow, can't believe we're here. Of course, the winter solstice, well, here in the northern hemisphere at least, and the beginning of the new year is what I call mirror season for Cancerians, because it's your opposing sign of Capricorn, and there's so much energy working through that seventh house, that opposing sign. As I'm sure you're well aware, there's been a big journey of doing shadow work and self-love work when it comes to how you love and how you receive love, how you relate, how you connect. And it's been a pretty big, bold, wild journey. I have a really big note for you all before we get into the planets and what's going on with all of that. It was a really strong, clear message that came in for me, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So I'm just going to kind of read what I had noted down. Trust, 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 trust. Trust how big this all is. You are coming to the end of a long journey through what it means to love and be loved, to express and to be seen fully. You are now starting to inhabit a full new skin. This month is kind of like a final farewell and an opening up. As Martha Beck says, and she has this invocation, this prayer, this spell that she casts when we're really manifesting that says, "Thank you, I quit." And what she's talking about when she's talking about that is you're saying thank you for all the blessings coming your way. You already know that they're in your life. And I quit is the release of any holding tight to the mechanisms, to how it's going to happen, to having control, right? You release that burden and you trust more deeply into the process. You are going to surrender into the goodness and allow yourself to drop anything that feels burdensome, including where you may feel unworthy of how beautiful things can be. So there's a really big message coming in for Cancerians this month, and it makes sense. There's still so much energy in Capricorn, right? Your opposing sign, including Jupiter having moved over there, which is so beautiful because having Jupiter in your relationship sign and your opposing sign is really going to give you huge boosts of energy this year when it comes to how you relate. It's expanding all of that. So, but Jupiter does conjunct the south node and then opposes the north node in your sign on the 8th. So we're having a little check in there with worthiness and letting ourselves feel through what's next. We also have this full moon lunar eclipse in your sign. And there's where that shedding of the skin and that opening up to who you're becoming now is so potent. You know, when you have an eclipse in your sign, there is kind of a dropping away of past identities. We've been doing this for a little while. As you know, we've had a few eclipses in your sign at this point. So it's 10 of Pentacles, yes. So it's, you know, you kind of get with the program at this point, I think, because you've been doing it. The moon, perfect. Your ruling orb, the moon, right? So that lunar eclipse is really big, and that's also the day Uranus goes direct, 3 of Wands. Wow, I love this, you all. Uranus goes direct in Taurus, in your 11th house of your community, but you can see how that's going to be a really electrical eclipse. Knight of Cups. Wow, you guys are getting some good energy here in the cards today. Yeah, and there's some really beautiful things going on here. Venus is entering Pisces right after that full moon, and that's in your visionary house, right? Thinking big, dreaming big. We're also shifting gears, so we are in your 7th house, the first part of the month, right? And then as we start shifting into Aquarius, Aquarius holds a really interesting place in your energetic map. Emperor, wow. Because it's the 8th house. It's your house of transformation. So working through Aquarius energy could feel a little bit like a little bit of a death of self. 3 of Swords. As I said, death of self. Wow. Okay. Damn. There's a shift out, right? There's a close out. 3 of Swords is a really potent energy. 8 of Swords. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we're having all this huge, you can see that there's this huge infusion, this huge influx of energy at the beginning of the month. And then there's like this moment where we get into swords energy, which is all our analytical mind, right? This is where our thoughts can either serve us or keep us imprisoned. It's a big theme coming up in January, actually, and Nine of Wands. Okay, so this all is making sense to me. Like I said, just as I was pulling these more difficult cards, I was talking about 8th house energy, and what it does for us is it helps us shed a skin. It helps us step more fully into our next skin, and I think this happens sometimes more intensely when things are going well than it does when we're kind of muddling through like the typical life problems, right? Like sometimes we can get more comfortable in having it be a little hard, a little difficult, than when we really start to get infusions of the big life we want to live. That's when we actually meet and transmute the pain points that want to hold us back. That's when we do that work. The one part of the healing is definitely sitting still, being quiet, sitting back into the quiet, and being with yourself. But the other part of healing is being a part of life, being a part of action, being a part of relationships, and that's where we do that healing. And we cannot transmute that part of ourselves alone, and we cannot transmute that part of ourselves without being out there in the world and having big, bold, juicy, good stuff happen. So this all makes sense to me because we start off with maybe some of the juiciest cards I can think of, right? Like these are big, you all. These are really big energies. The fact that 10 of Pentacles starts you off, I can tell you right now, this year is a year about this type of legacy energy for you. About what you really want to build next, the home you want to build, the family you want to build, the work you want to do in the world, and how you want that to move you forward. And you're going to be getting huge infusions of clarity, of insight on this, and even kind of like that ability to kind of get flashes of insight about how big that's going to be 6 months from now, the end of the year, what have you. And that's bold energy. You know, this is really strong energy. This is about planting those seeds and knowing that as you're planting them, you're really committing, right? You're committing into building some of this stuff. 10 of Pentacles things that come from 10 of Pentacles energy are the kind of things that take time to build, and they take that decisive action at some point where you say, I'm going to consistently show up to this. Now, of course, this is stuff that has to be in alignment with you. You know, it's not about workhorsing your way to a result. It's about something that feels right, that feels connected. This is about family. This is about building the home environment you want to build, and also, yes, doing the work you want to do. So there's something really powerful here where you're plugging into that. And you're plugging into it from an intuitive source, right? That moon energy, while it can be foggy and confusing at times, in the context of this reading, where it's surrounded by the 10 of Pentacles and the 3 of Wands, the ships are coming in. So powerful. It tells me that, you know, your intuitive guidance system is on point. Like you already know what it is that you want. You already know how you're wanting to move through the world. This is not a mystery. This is not something you're having to sit there and say, oh, maybe, I don't know, am I allowed to? This is something you already know is yours, right? This is stuff you've been preparing for. This is stuff that you've been open to. This is stuff that is feeling really powerful for you. Boom, you know about it. Right? Like this is very crisp, clear, intuitive guidance. This is knowing that even if you don't know exactly how all of these components, that the 3 of Wands, those ships coming in, the 10 of Pentacles, all that, you don't know all the little details of how it's all going to play out. You just know that you are plugged into this and you're going with it. So there's a really strong message there of just kind of tapping in and plugging into this bigger vision. Almost like you're getting visited by the newest version of yourself, and you haven't quite frequency-wise caught up to that version of yourself. You know, they might seem a little intimidating at first, but you know you love that energy and you know you want to be around it, and so you keep moving forward. You keep going for it, right? And you're getting huge infusions of love. You know, once again, there's a lot going on with that oppositional sign energy. But one thing that's really happening here is you are diving deeper into connection, being seen, being vulnerable, giving, and receiving, right? And receiving, which sometimes that may be a little scary, a little hard, right? This Knight of Cups is vulnerable in the sense that this is that believing energy, really believing that truth, love, and beauty is something we can all live by. It's vulnerable to be the believer, right? It's vulnerable to be the one that believes in happy endings, believes in juicy goodness, believes in the softness of life. It's a bravery and a courage in that is so important, and to embrace that is really, really big right now, and it's a big key component of these huge waves of energy coming in for you. Now here's where it really starts to get interesting, because there's an activation of your bigger lifeline going on here, which is where the Emperor comes in. Of course, some of you maybe have an Aries in your life or another dominant personality, but when the Emperor shows up in a reading, I tend to feel like this is a destiny activation, because the Emperor sits, he's a father figure, right? And it's like, if you really want to get primordial about it, he's like fertility of the masculine. And he's about owning that space. And it's almost like, when you sit down on his throne, you're activating something. You're activating something, and you can't really go back from once you've sat in this spot, that everything's clicked into gear and you are now moving into this energy. This is very forward-driven energy. Fire, initiating fire. So when Emperor is getting activated, it means you've just clicked into something really big and bold. And it can feel huge, like almost too big. You can sometimes get a sense of agoraphobia when you are overwhelmed with this bigness, right? Like, oh my gosh, will I be able to handle this? And this is where we're going to get into the interesting cards of this reading, because that's right when we realize we are really going to invest and commit and choose to show up to life in the way that we're going to show up into life. That's when we get the chance to transmute our belief system and to rewire our brains, quite literally, and to tap into new frequencies. So this is your opportunity to do that. So when you start feeling some of these feelings that are coming up in these next three cards, remember that this is the opportunity for you to more deeply invest, more deeply embody this frequency of the Ten of Pentacles and the Three of Wands and the Knight of Cups and the Emperor, and even, your true nature of the Moon. Because yes, these are points of pain. Three of Swords, Eight of Swords, Nine of Wands. These are all the tricks our mind plays on us. These three cards are really, really on point. The fact that they came out all three together like this is like the perfect pictorial example of survival stories we inherit, that we construct from a young age. If I put my heart out there, it's going to get hurt. It's going to be bad. I'm going to be left in the shadows. I'm going to be left out. There's going to be nothing left. That's one narrative, right? So you protect. You put on your armor, you put on your covering, and you'll be okay then. But of course, that actually is where the pain comes from, right? And wanting to close down our hearts and wanting to hide out. If I don't worry all the time and come up with every reason why things won't work, I won't be safe. That's another story. And we have to transmute that story into one of, there's always options. There's always a way forward. And I may not know every single step from 1 to 10, but I know what I can do right now. I know that I can take those leaps, and I know that I will be okay. That is the transmutation of those thoughts, right? Nine of Wands. The world is not safe. I must always be on my guard. And even when things are going well, I can't enjoy that because I need to be on the lookout for pain. Transmuting that story can be, I don't have to be responsible for holding everything together all the time. I am allowed to relax into the moment, and I trust myself enough to know that I will always make choices that reflect who I am and what I need. So these cards are pretty heavy hitting, right, Cancers? Like these are not, they're not what you probably want to be seeing in this reading, but this is what I'm saying to you. When we are plugged into that relationship we want, we're saying yes to that job we want, we're making those bold moves to move to that new city, to start that new project, to open ourselves up to the next level of commitment and joy. That is the prime place to transmute and to literally rewire our brains. And the thing is, our survival mechanisms are going to get way louder for a little bit when you're living boldly. Because they're going to be like, alarm, alarm, you're not living in the familiar, you're not living in what we recognize, we got to keep you safe. It's all safety fear mechanisms that have to do with, what we kind of call the lizard brain. It's the survival brain. It's wired into us, right? We wire it into ourselves. So this is just really profound work. Now I'm going to pull another card from my Animal Totem Tarot. This is something I'm adding into the readings this month, and I'm really curious to see what comes out as your message. The creator of this deck has such beautiful messages that I'm reading straight out of the book for this month, and I'm so excited to see what card you get, because Ten of Wands wanted to come out. Okay, let's pull up the Ten of Wands. The traditional Ten of Wands is about releasing a burden. It's about closing something out. It's about letting go of who you think you're supposed to be. So I'm just looking up the Ten of Wands. We're almost there. Okay, here we go. The Ten of Wands is the snail. And as you can see, there's a snail hanging out with those wands in the wind, whipping in the grass. What is the message that is written here? My hide-and-seek abilities connect me to the rebirthing power of the soul in its many physical forms. And my slimy silver trails track the natural magnetic pull of the earth as I travel through my physical life. I am totally contained on this journey and need nothing more than what and who I am. Allow me to show you how you can travel your own path, unencumbered and unrestricted. Oh my gosh, I have so many chills. When I think about that, I just think about like letting yourself have that love, letting yourself have that just beautiful path. You don't need to stop yourself. And I also think about that whole idea of transmutation that's so strong in Aquarius season for you, how much you're going to be working with that, and that it's okay. It doesn't mean that because you have fear thoughts, or because you're transmuting, or because you're having that loss of oneself to step into another, doesn't mean that all these beautiful things are going to collapse and disappear. Really quite the contrary. They're probably going to amplify the more you allow yourself to fully feel these range of emotions and to let them change with you. I have a toast for you all for the new year. These are my wishes for you ahead. I'm so excited to see what this beautiful year brings you. My heart is so full when I think of you all. I have a very deep tie to you all for so many reasons. Wow. Okay. Sometimes I just have so many feelings. You guys are just such warm, wonderful people. Thank you for being who you are. It's the best. Thank you so much. So here is your toast. Let me collect myself here. May love bloom and flourish from within you and all around you. May the adventure be ripe with soothing and excitement. May you let yourself fully submerge into the blessings coming your way. May each day expand your heart and grow your vision just a little bit more. May the moments of rest and ease always feel like home. Cheers to you, beautiful, beautiful moon children. And yes, the sparkling water. I'm not here to to float off into Fantasyland. I'm here to really feel these emotions with you all. If you haven't joined me on Patreon, I would love to see you over there. I'm going to be doing so much with extras extra resources, extra information about specific transits on specific weeks. I also do my weekly astro write-up over there so you get a feel for the week. And I'm going to be sharing, in 2020, there's going to be a lot more personal sharing of where I am in my life, what I'm experiencing, what I'm finding challenging, how I'm working with the tools in my personal life, so you get a bit more of an insight into who I am. All of those tools will be available to you on Patreon. I'm so excited. Thank you to those of you who have joined me. You can also find me on Instagram at SarahVerba. I would love to see you there as well. And you can find me on my website, sarahverba.com. I'm going to have a really limited calendar in 2020, so far at least, the first part of the year. I'm going to be releasing that schedule sometime soon once I figure out a few technical things on my side. So if you want to be notified of when those appointments become available, I would highly recommend you email me so I can put you on the notification list, so you'll know when the calendar opens and you can snag a spot with me. I would love to work one-on-one with you all. I will see you for more Moon Magics. Oh, and of course, how can I forget? I'm wearing PinkLune. Tiffany is one of my best friends. She made this crown specifically for me, and we have a love affair, this crown and I. I love it so much. She has so many other beautiful crowns and jewelry, and I would highly recommend you go check her out. She has such beautiful stuff in her Etsy. All of those goodies are in the description box. I'll see you in January for more Moon Magics, in February for more unfolding of the path. Trust yourselves, my loves. You're doing such amazing work, and I'm sending you all my gratitude and my big juicy heart right to you.